This video is proudly sponsored by DigimonCard.io for all your Digimon card, deck building, deck list, card pricing, and discussion needs. Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and we have another double top 16. I am looking forward to the days we've got one tournament to cover at a time, but for today we do have the Carta Magica and the Top Cut Webcam Regionals that happened on August 13th this past weekend. Both events were BT9, both events were also streamed. There will be links in this document to the VODs on Twitch if you guys want to see some of this gameplay. So shout outs to Carta and Top Cut for giving me these lists to give to you guys as well, and if you guys do appreciate the work that went into making this document and giving it to you guys, I would appreciate that like and subscribe. So, and real quick too, the Top Cut VOD was done by myself and Luis the Panda, so definitely check that out. I will be re-uploading it onto my YouTube later this week as well if you guys want to check it out on here, so keep your eyes peeled for that. But going into these breakdowns, we do have on the Carta side a lot of MetalGaruru, and that's something I think that's popping up. It got not only first place, but 3 of the top 4 spots were MetalGaruru as well. So 6 of them, 2 D-Brigades, 2 Gaiomon, 1 Reaper, 1 Alpha, 1 Grandis, 1 Armor Rush, 1 Imperialdramon, and 1 Red-Yellow Hybrid. And then on the other side for Top Cut, we do have 4 MetalGarurumons, with Alphamon taking the event this time around, but also 3 Gaiomons, 2 Alphamons, 2 D-Reapers, 2 Armor Rush, a Security Control, a D-Brigade, and a Grandis as well. So I still think like this is a weird format where there is a lot of variety on the way you get there, but all of the decks are pretty much trying to do the exact same thing. So that's, I think that's kind of interesting in its own spot. I'm not sure if that means it's a good meta or a bad meta, but we're going to start off with the top deck in every archetype with Jesse Spencer's first place MetalGarurumon from the Carta Magica event. And I think this is kind of an archetype that people are discovering is just actually really strong, not only in its flexibility of being kind of like a mid-range kind of OTK or like a high level OTK, but just all of the kind of stuff you're able to do with it. So the big thing too, I think, is there's a lot of kind of avenues for consistency too, and there's also I do like the new tech for this that I've been seeing people add is the EX1 version. So when attacking once per turn, reveal the top 3 cards, add 1 Tamer, 1 Digimon with Alphamon and its name among them to your hand, and place the remaining at the bottom. So just kind of nice for like you can digivolve a Gabumon X on top of it and then swinging at the inheritable with this, which is nice, which lets you find just a Tamer, which means that if you're trying to find your hero or even a Cool Boy Tamer off this, you can, and you do need your hero if you're trying to get into your delicate plan, and then the rest of the chain is quite good. The Garurumon X, I think, is something that is getting a lot more popular in the sense that it's great for I don't know, like I'm just figuring this out, that it's so good at the protection where it lets you survive attacks, including attacks in security. So even if you're doing like a big dual attack with this Garurumon, that's only a 6k, and then you do buff it up to potentially a 7k with the Digi Egg and anything else you can even get like an additional plus 1k off this Garurumon. So even at 8k will die to a lot of things in security, but if you use the inheritable of the Garurumon X, it does let you have some protection there. And then also the Garurumon on every swing, it's not a once per turn, you do get to draw 1 card. So just getting cycle there, you can get like 1 or 2 stacks of these X antibodies with the Gabu X, and then you can just do a lot of damage with this and have some kind of easy plays to go up into your thing. So being able to gain card draw as what when you're doing damage to your opponent by doing these swings, I think is very good and very powerful at the same time. Hero's also very good because you can just tap it to give the boost to your Garurumon stack, which just means that sometimes you just live all the time and you just kind of get the damage with it too. So I'm really liking this deck. I think it's doing super well, and I think a lot of other people are catching on with how powerful this deck can be, and just all the damage it can do, and just how flexible it can be at the same time too. So congrats to Jesse on their finish with MetalGaruru for this weekend. And then next up we do have Top Cut's first place. So this is Alphamon by Paul, and this is I think like we've already have a lot of our own opinions on how good Alphamon is, and spoilers, it is very good right now, and we're seeing even less rookies being played for this deck, only 10 on this side for the Doraemon, for of the at least the memory game. This is just the one you only want to see every time. And then, you do see some black memory boost. You do see some Cool Boy as well that lets you just get some search early game. Obviously, you need to get a rookie, but I don't think it's too much to ask for with how much searches you have in this deck for it. And then you just kind of build your line. It's also wild to see for a Ryumon in here. You just want to see this every time, and I guess you definitely will. get this when you're running it at 4. It's just so strong. Being able to get to, you know, an unsuspend in this game is very, very strong. So getting there. Also, the cute little Ogremon tech, I think, to get rid of any of these like memory blockers like a Gaiomon. They can just kind of ruin your day in a lot of spots when you try to go up your chain all at once, or if you're just sitting on a black memory or booster too. I'm not hating this tech, and you can technically digivolve it into Dex Durogreymon if you really want to, and kind of keep going up your chains, which is kind of cute. So anyways, congrats to Paul on their finish there. And next up, we do have the second place from Top Cut. So again, a lot of the tops for at least Carta were the MetalGaruru X, but this is the second place from Quan, and I really do, you know, I'm really starting to like these decks, and this is probably the next deck that I'm going to get really into, is this Gaiomon list with all of these kind of this huge Greymon line that you can do. The kind of similar to the Garurumon X, there is this Greymon X antibody, which does offer protection to effects, which honestly I think is more powerful between the two, especially in the way that you're trying to build this deck. Some decks, like still in this game, you have Metal Greymon on top of a Blackboard Greymon or a Gaiomon, and you just win because your opponent literally can't do anything. If they try to build a stack, then you just die to the swing and everything else. So Gaiomon having reboot is fantastic. Of course, Blackboard Greymon is good if you're able to swing and get a restand there. And the Greymon inheritable, being able to just have a stack with Greymon and the X antibody, as well as the Metal Greymon and everything. You just get like this really big stack that your opponent really can't interact with very easily. And that's just kind of enough to at least stall the game for you to do more damage or just kind of go in. So I really do like how this deck's working. It's doing a lot of good stuff. It also does have a somewhat free matchup against Mother at times, because again, if you do have the Metal Greymon, you can swing into stuff with this, and it's not too terribly hard to ask for at boost, especially since you can go Metal Greymon into the X antibody, get a plus 3k as long as it's on top of a Metal Gray, and then with a Blackboard Gray or with a Gaiomon, you're able to tie or swing over that Mother, and that kind of just wins the game most times too. So again, I really like this deck. I think it's going to be showing up a little bit more often than I was expecting, and we saw a bunch of kind of tops with it on both sides, so that's very cool. So congrats again to Quan, and we do have next up Jeffrey's Mother D Reaper, the deck we were just talking about. And again, Mother's just doing fine. It's finally topping after again doing nothing for a month. I think most builds are pretty understood in most parts. The Death Xmon I think is a permanent staple, as well as the X antibody option, being able to kind of ramp up your stuff is good. 20 searchers is kind of like on the more conservative side, but you do always want to see these, and you just kind of go from there. I don't have a lot to say about Mother except for I hate going against it, which probably means it's a good deck, and if you guys want to play and get tops with it, I don't think it's too difficult to ask for in this meta. So next up, we do have Enrique's D-Brigade, and this is a deck again that I've been slowly falling in love with in the last couple of weeks, and it's definitely a deck that I would have to sleeve it up every format and be, okay, is this deck good now? Is it something? Can it do something? And most of the time it's just like, nah, it's missing something, and it's not quite there. And there's a couple ads right now, especially in this build. This is a crazier build than I've seen than most, but there's some really nice kind of, like, if you're able to go through your stuff, there's some really neat stuff. So Darkdramon is, you know, as already just going into a level 6 for 3 memory is already pretty absurd, which means you do have this bunch of level 7s that you can just kind of go into. Zwart is a good thing because you can go back into your guys, you can play some blockers, you can play some other dudes if you need to. The X antibody that you can digivolve on top of either Omnimon I think is such a silly play, but I love to see it. Death Xmon is a great option too, either hard cast it or digivolve on top of Darkdramon if you need to, but honestly I think just the hard cast is good. Ultimate Flare, Iron Fisted, Izzy, the Izzy Joe, as well as the Kazu. Kazu is such a good tamer in this deck too. It just gets you like memory +1, especially if you just have a Commandramon and raising. It helps you on your next turn, as well as being able to get some cycle with a draw 1, trash 1, which trashing a Commandramon, put it into your trash to get a little bit cheaper for Darkdramon is fantastic. Or if you're playing a bunch of these level 7s that are just sometimes dead in hand, especially like these these warp defeats, you're sometimes just like, okay, cool, I'll just trash it and I don't have to worry about it anymore. So I like this deck. I'm happy that it's doing well. I've always been a big fan of Omni Zwart Defeat as well, and this seems like a really mean deck if your opponent's not really ready for it. So again, congrats to Enrique with it. This is probably the spiciest build of Commandramon I've seen so far, and I really like it. Next up, we do have an Armor Rush build. So this is Bill's 5th place from the Top Cut side, and I think we've kind of generalized what we want to see from these decks. Obviously, everyone has their own personalized ratio of what VMons are the best. 4 Lightdramon, 4 Magdramon are usually the core. Flame Dramon can go down to 3 if you need that space for something else. Fire Rocket has been a big MVP as well, going from 2 to 3. And then also Awakening of the Golden Knight is either between this and Armor Texture. And Armor Texture, I think, is just doing a little bit better between the two, just because you sometimes just need that restand or that to go up into your next chain if you need to. And I'm a super big fan of Chimeramon in this deck, especially since it's very, very easy to get the 4 colors underneath it, and with that you're able to get a 12k and get some really good board clear. Sometimes you can just do this for game 2 because it's not too terrible to ask for your armored Digimon to survive after a swing, and you can just do one more swing by doing the double DNA into this, and that feels pretty good. Megadeth again is probably one of the easiest kind of like generic board removals in this game, especially in an OTK format. Sometimes this is insecurity and you win the game because of that, so that's strong. And again, Davis Ken with a restand on any of your cards that live is a very good effect too. So I think Armor Rush is still kind of in this like probably the bottom of like tier 1.5. I think it's very viable. We'll definitely see people who run it and they're going to get some placings with it. I'd be very surprised if it wins an event, but sometimes it really goes off and it's very, very strong. So again, congrats to Bill for their finish there. And next up we do have Anthony's 8th place, Grandis from the Carta side. And I think it's in the same spot as I think that Armor Rush is in right now, that a lot of people are repping it right now. And I think there are some days that just sometimes you just see everything and you're good to go and you just make it. So I'd say like this deck is a lot more aggressive than Armor Rush, but on the flip side, it doesn't have as much stuff in the security that's scary or that can gain you that advantage. But I do like running when playing Grandis. I just like playing the mono green version. I do respect that red with ADP is great, but sometimes you just have to like not get like the consistency you give up for it. I think in the long run you just win more games by just doing your line and hoping the security is bad, instead of just being like, okay, I have to get the perfect line, and then if I get the perfect line you win. And if you do that, sometimes you just lose because you don't see it and you're just sitting there kind of waiting for it. So 4 Mimis is obviously the max you can have, but I haven't seen like 4 Mimis in the deck in a while. But this double Mimi is not like terribly bad, because sometimes you can just double tap it to raise a rookie that you just hatched and swing for game with it, which is quite nice. And we do see some of the metal Kabuterimons too, which you can digivolve on top of itself to suspend something with 6k or less, so that can be impactful occasionally. I think it's kind of like the better of the thing. And sometimes like you just need to make like another like stack with stuff, which is kind of important because it can't just digivolve on top of a level 4. So if you're only seeing level 4s, this can kind of get like one more kind of digivolve to get out of that stack kind of thing. 4 green memory boost too. I think this is I think green and black are definitely in such a good memory boost format, because there's just adds the memory and consistency that a lot of them are missing. And these memory boosts they've been out for a while, and they've been just good ever since release. I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon. So anyways, this is Anthony's list. Congrats on their finish there. And next up we do have David's security control that's got 9th place in Top Cut side. And again, security control is doing okay. I think a lot of people are repping it, and I think there's just a thing where it sometimes has a hard time winning in time, and especially like it kind of goes into this valley. Like if you tie one game with security control, it means that you are probably playing against other decks that also tied, which means other security control decks most of the time. And the mirror match for this is just absurdly bad. And it's just I've played it before. No one has fun. It almost feels like it's a coin flip of who actually wins the kind of a game like this. But security control does have some nice new text with the Death Xmon in here as well. It's just a good card. I'm surprised not seeing any of these Salamon X antibodies in some of these, but you don't run a lot of rookies anyways. And the purple yellow package I think is the way to go, especially since Chaos Degradation is the best form of removal in the game, and there's not really any protection for it, since it just sends it to the opponent's security stack, and that doesn't really, there's no protection for that, which is really funny. I also do like the Gaiomon, and it looks like it must not be doing as much work as I would assume it would, because there's only one in here. But if you're playing against a deck that just loves to raise in the stack and then push it up, this will just stall them from doing that effectively, and then you can just pop the card next turn with the Chaos Degradation or whatever else you have for it. So this is, I don't know, I think security control is very tempting in this format where a lot of decks are being very aggressive. It's also, because of that, a lot of decks are playing ADP, and if they are able to see that, then you can just go through the security with no fear, and that feels kind of bad. So Anyways, I think David topping with this is very, very nice, and congrats on their finish there. Next up, we do have Carta Magica's 12th place. This is Imperialdramon from Justin's side. I don't have a lot to say about Imperialdramon. It's looking the same as it has, and I think most in like Imperialdramon Armor Rush players are kind of in a similar boat of if they want to go for like the more aggressive like Imperialdramon, where you get a bigger stack and you get some more kind of like quote-unquote guaranteed swings, but it's a little bit more fragile because if you lose your one line, it's kind of hard to recover from there. Or kind of like the more rush variant from the Armor Rush, where sometimes if your armor just lives on their first swing, you get it just does like 2 or 3 damage, and it's very kind of hard to get back from that as well. I do like the cute little Petriform. This is just a hard cast for 3, so it's just kind of like another version of Stingmon, but you don't need to have like a blue card for it. But I guess like there's just finds too many times where, man, I would want one more Stingmon in this deck. I'd run 5 of them if I could, and that's pretty much what that card is. It doesn't have the free trait as far as I know, but you are able to just play it for 3 or Digivolve for 2 on top of green, which there are none of, so I guess that's that hard cast of 3. 2 Lobomons as well, and also the Leomon. I am surprised there's no Magnamon, since I think that is a somewhat strong deck against anything with piercing, but I don't know. And again, this is a deck that does let you run 4 Megadeth for free, so it's kind of meta viable because Megadeth is very viable right now. And last deck we're going to go over today is Philip's 16th place red-yellow hybrid from the Carter side. And I really am a big fan of these red-yellow hybrid lists, and it's just a kind of shame that they didn't get to kind of come out at full force in this meta with the limiting of Jet Sophie at the beginning. And maybe I'm saying that, and maybe I don't know what I'm missing in the sense that it would be kind of rough to have Jet Sophie be at 4 right now. But there's just some really cool lines, and it's a shame that you can't go up your line without having more consistent cards than Jet Sophie. Even if there's just something like Jet Sophie that only did the reduction of 2 to make it a 1 to go up into a level 6, I think that'd be fine. And even without the recover effect, and we just don't have that, which really kind of stinks. But there are some kind of really cool synergies. Sunrise Buster is such a good card. There's also just running Gigadeath with no green or blue in the deck at all, which is just mad respect. And I guess it's just to make sure that you're running every color but white, because purple, black, green, red, green, blue, and then the red, yellow. So kind of an interesting choice there. But again, if it hits security, it's for 9, suspend one of your opponent's Digimon, then place up to 10 of your opponent's suspended Digimon at the bottom of the deck in any order. Or security effect, suspend one of your opponent's Digimon, then return one of them to the bottom of the deck. So the security effect is just kind of like a mini Megadeth, but just better because it does get a round of returning to hand, since it gets returned to the bottom of the deck instead. Other than that, the Gaiomon is super good, especially since you can Digivolve there into the X antibody, which this can delete like a Gazimon or something else that you like, a tiny thing that you want off the board. The Cosmomon and Zephyrmon on top of stuff too can do some stuff. Burning Greymon too can do. I think you have to like Digivolve specifically on top of a Goonimon, because you have to. Yeah, it has to be a Digimon with hybrid, and its traits are Takuya, which you're not running, but I think that's fine. And then there's also the Red-Yellow Tamer, which is really like, this didn't really get to see its shine, but if you have 3 or fewer security cards, gain 1. If your opponent has 3 or fewer, you get to gain 1 too. So in a format where there's not a lot of recovery, this can get you some early memory if you're being able to be aggressive with your Gaiomons or some early hybrid swings too. So I don't know, I'd like to see this deck played. It looks very fun. And congrats again to Philip on their finish. But that's going to be it for us today. Again, shoutouts to Top Cut and Carta for giving me these lists to give to you guys. Make sure to check out the tournament VODs, and that's going to be it for me. So again, thank you guys so much, and I'll catch you all next time.